One. 1, 2. Check me out right here, yo.
What's up, MMA fans? We just got treated to a what started out to be a good pay-per-view, but then kind of fell on its ass on the last fight or two. But still enjoyed UFC 72 victory. Oh, and yes, still wearing it. Same day. I'm doing a bunch of videos today since I have the day off, so still wearing in support of BJ Penn. Ultimate Fighter finale coming up on Saturday. But this is my review of UFC 72. You know, I'm going to start at the top this time. Usually I start at the bottom, but I'm going to start at the top and just kind of I'll start with the Franklin Okami fight. You know, I thought Joe Rogan made a really good point during the fight. It's really hard to look good and to fight somebody that is not engaging with you, that every time you take a step forward they run away. You know, Okami for those first 2 rounds and for part of the third he just ran away. You know, we were treated to some excitement in the third round when Okami got the takedown, had Franklin in some bad positions. You know, that Kimura was it was pretty nasty, but Franklin, you know, showed some slick moves on the ground and ended up on top. So, you know, I thought that you know, Okami definitely won that last round, but Franklin won the fight. He was the aggressor. He was the one who was moving forward. He was throwing more than a jab. He was trying to trade with Okami. I think he still might be a little bit tentative, but you know, I thought he looked decent. You know, so yeah. They announced that Franklin will be fighting for the title in his next fight. So either Nate Marquardt or Anderson Silva, which that prediction video probably in a couple days, I'm guessing. So next fight they kind of considered it kind of a co-main event. Forrest Griffin, Hector Ramirez. Pretty much I was hoping for to get a knockout in this one, but you know, Forrest Griffin pretty much, you know, did what I said. He's gonna pick apart Hector Ramirez with a stand-up, and he did. I mean, you know, and it was a very smart Forrest Griffin, which is good to see, because, you know, I think, you know, I just wish Griffin had KO power, because if he fights smart like that and all those leg kicks and everything, I mean, he would be a real force in the light heavyweight division. But without KO power, yeah, I don't know. I like what he said after the fight. You know, he was like, you know, was a little bit afraid of getting knocked out. You know, I like Forrest because he really doesn't hide anything. I mean, he's just very blunt and just puts it all out there. So, next fight was the tough killer Jason McDonald and Rory Singer. Now, Singer came out and looked really impressive in the first round. Had a deep triangle on him at the end of the round. Jason McDonald survived it and you know, didn't look any worse for the wear. I was actually pretty impressed with Jason McDonald. He didn't, you know, after getting, you know, pretty much manhandled and dominated by Rory or by Rich Franklin. It wasn't in his head or anything like that, and he came out and he put on. And then the second round, you know, he did what he had to do. He got on top of him, got him in that mount position. I was really surprised that Singer wasn't kicking off the fence, and that's, you know, I kind of understood the stoppage, because, I mean, Singer was in a position where he could kind of kick and try to buck him off, you know, by kicking off the fence, you know, and he was in that position for like 5 seconds just taking punishment and wasn't doing anything. So I understood the stoppage. I felt it was a smart stoppage. So McDonald continues to be the tough killer. He's now got wins over Ed Herman, Chris Lieben, and now Rory Singer in the UFC. So very impressive for Jason McDonald. Next fight was probably the most exciting fight of the night. Tyson Griffin, Clay Guida. Back and forth, very close. I mean, it was a frantic 15 minutes of just takedowns and, you know, strikes, and, you know, Tyson Griffin really owned the stand-up battle with Clay Guida, but Guida is freaking relentless, and that guy is a cardio machine, man. He never runs out of energy. So, you know, he was relentless with those takedowns. Both guys spent time on top, time on the bottom, and it was pretty impressive. I actually scored the fight. I predicted Griffin to win. But I scored the fight for Guida when I was watching it. So, you never know. I thought Guida won that last round. I thought Guida won the second round. Tyson Griffin won the first. But, you never know. That's why you don't want to leave the fight up to the judges, because, a guy like Clay Guida, who I think won, ended up losing. So, but, both were very impressive, and the Irish fans they weren't booing Tyson Griffin. They were booing the judges because, so I can understand a split decision, but it should have gone Guida's way. So, another great fight on the card was the fight that I dubbed the two guys that like to let me down, and that's Ed Herman, Scott Smith. Now, Ed Herman apparently had been whining that his for like a week that his fight had been kicked off the main card, but it made it back on. So, everything I hear about Ed Herman, I don't really like him. I don't like it when he talks, because he always seems to bring up the past and stuff, and he didn't do it this time, but, he looked impressive. I mean, that was a nasty cut. Oh, excuse me. His ground and pound was awesome. I mean, he found a way to get those elbows in. He brought Scott Smith into his world, and to be fair to Scott Smith, man, he was a survivor of a bad situation there. So, I can't find myself liking Ed Herman at all. I think that he is a good fighter, and he does have a decent ground game and a pretty good takedown and all that. But I just don't see him going anywhere in the division. I just think he's kind of going to be stuck in the middle of the division. He strikes me as a cocky guy, and he thinks he doesn't get everything he deserves. And I'm like, dude, you were 1-2 going into this fight. Your two victories are over Scott Smith and Chris Price. Scott Smith is now 1-3 in the UFC. You're not beating top opponents. So quit whining. You belong in the undercard. But good fight, and and a good showing by Ed Herman. So I also got to put a side note. Ed Herman is the whitest guy in the history of the world. I swear to God, that guy was like a friend of mine asked me. It was like that hadn't seen the UFC at all. Because I picked Herman. I was like, she was like, which one's Herman? And I was like, the guy who's clear, because Jesus Christ, I mean, you can pretty much see through him. He's so white. Preliminary match that made the main card was Marcus Davis and Jason Tan. I like Marcus Davis, and I'm still going to call him the Irish Hand Grenade, even though for political reasons he had to change his name to the Celtic Warrior. I don't know if it's going to go back, but that's guy's now 4-1 in the UFC. Only lost, I can't remember who it was to right now, but oh well. Jason Tan came out and wanted to strike with him, and Marcus Davis is a professional boxer. So, obviously, what happened? Bam, bam, done. 75 seconds into the fight, and it was kind of cool to hear. It was a little bit of a cheesy story, but it was Marcus Davis' dream to fight in Ireland, and even though Northern Ireland was pretty much the United Kingdom, had they been in Dublin, that would have been real Ireland. But good fight, And then the two fights we didn't see, Eddie Sanchez, apparently he survived a onslaught from Big C, but Big C's conditioning is not top-notch, because apparently towards the end of the first round he gassed out and he was done, because Eddie Sanchez put some strikes together in the end of the first round, and then he just came out and, 30 seconds of the first round, or the second round, TKO'd him. So, and then the last fight on the undercard was Dustin Hazlett against Stevie Lynch. Stevie Lynch was the local fighter. It was pretty much dominated from the opening bell by Hazlett. He got him to the ground and he used a Darce choke to choke him out. So, altogether, I gotta say I was pretty happy with how my predictions turned out, because I ended up 8 for 8. So that was cool. Don't look for it to happen again, because in the world of MMA, that's a once in a lifetime sort of deal. Decent pay-per-view, not great, not but it wasn't as bad as everybody was saying. As beforehand, you got to give the pay-per-view a chance, because So I wasn't disappointed that I ordered it. So So yeah, so we're going to be treated to some good fights in the future. We got UFC 73. I just put up my video for the Strikeforce pay-per-view for my predictions on that. I don't know if I'm going to do a review or an aftermath of that. I'll probably do a review, but probably not an aftermath. But I'll try to get my UFC 72 aftermath vid up. So, all right. Well, we got Ultimate Fighter finale coming up. We got UFC 73 stacked, and more to come. Hi, Train. Shocker.
You know that I'm 2 levels above you, baby. Hug me, baby. I'ma make you love me, baby. Talking crazy ain't gonna get you nothing but choke. And that jealousy is only gonna leave you broke. So the only thing left now is God for these cats. And babe, you know you're too hard for these cats. I'ma win cause I'm too smart for these cats. While they making up facts, you waking up plaques.
In the commission, you ask for permission to hit him. He don't like me, him and wild wife, he was with him. You heard of us.